In the sandy soils of the Yanship National Park, Anton Esterhausen and his son are on the hunt for flowers. The native bushland on Western Australia's central coast would normally be bursting with springtime blooms.
It's very dry, but this one is coming.
But after 4 years of increasingly dry winters, only a handful of the plants are starting to bud.
The seasons have changed. It looks like this year we're running a little bit behind season. Definitely less flowers. WA have also had less rain, very hot summer, and probably that's what the after effect which we see now. A lot of dead plants and the the buds are not there.
Each season, the migratory beekeepers bring their hives down from the warmer blooms in the state's north in time for the springtime flowers. But this year, they've delayed moving their hives and are relying on the dwindling winter honey flows.
We're getting some honey flow off the white gum still, winter white gum. Not a lot, but it keeps the bees alive.
Is that where you would like to be normally?
No. This time of year, we would like to be here in the spring country on the sand plains. We see very good flow happening here. It's closer for our management, and it helps us to get ready for queen breeding. And this year, it looks as if there's probably not going to happen. This is not going to flower. There's going to be no flowers on this tree. If you look at, I can't see any buds on it for next year. And normally, by now you would have liked to see the buds on there.
Western Australia has the world's largest collection of wildflowers, with more than 12,000 species bursting into brilliant bloom each year. But as the seasons become drier, experts say that number has declined. 600 kilometres south of Yanship in the coastal town of Hopeton, retired farmer Graham Tonkin's bees are struggling.
Well, apart from the starvation and that, in this area, been very quiet this year.
With the big dry impacting even cooler climates like Hopeton, Graham has been forced to feed his bees to keep them alive.
Because of the season, the mallee hasn't flowered like it normally does, and the heath country hasn't flowered. Normally flowers late in the spring, and then we got the autumn heath blossom that hasn't flowered this year. I've been feeding them sugar syrup and a little bit of honeycomb, which I shouldn't do.
Already some of Graham's hives have been abandoned, and he's concerned more will follow.
They go down in numbers. The queen doesn't lay as many eggs, and so they go down in smaller hives, and then they'll evacuate the hive to go away to look for more honey.
With fewer flowers across the state, there's a concern that declining blooms are hiding a larger problem.
Over the time, the honey production's declined. So we had the world record for honey production in Western Australia.
Liz Barber is an academic at the University of Western Australia and CEO of WA-based bee research centre Y-Trace. She says even plants that have flowered are showing signs of stress.
This last year has actually got the beekeepers really worried. It's been a strange, so there's been a lot of flowering, and you can almost pick the species by the flowering event. It's been so definite with the flowering that's actually been happening, but it's been dry flowering. There's actually been no nectar or pollen in a lot of that flowering.
The more immediate concern, she says, is the long-term impact to the industry and the environment.
Honeybees are an indicator, so it'll be an absolute sign that all native animals, whether marsupials or native bees or anything, I mean, we've got such a variety of biodiversity here, they will all be under stress at the moment.
It's a prediction that's already being noticed in one of the state's most celebrated and prolific wildflower regions.
The ground's dry, the flowers aren't as full as they should be.
Ravensthorpe on the state's south is a biodiversity hotspot and attracts thousands of visitors each year, drawn to the region in part for its seasonal wildflower displays. Horticulturalist and coordinator of the Ravensthorpe Wildflower Show, Sue Layton, says while the region continues to see flowers bloom, the sporadic seasons could have an impact on the region's unique biodiversity.
In Australia, we have 2001 bees at this stage. That's how many have been named, identified and named. There's possibly a lot more, but in Western Australia, we have 801 of those bees.
And the bees are highly susceptible to any individual plant loss that could occur.
Our native bees adapt themselves and may only utilise one flower or one group of flowers or one family. So the latest named one is the ravensthorpe bee, and it's called the shaggy spined bee, and its whole life cycle lives on one flowering eucalypt that flowers, and it's only active during that time when it's in flower at the bottom of the Ravensthorpe range. So we could lose that species if we don't take care of that.
But there is research underway to protect bee populations, and it's taking place on farms by growing high pollen clovers and legumes into pastures that provide an alternative to native flowers.
We combine both the bee work as well as the pasture work to see if we can actually make these bee-friendly pastures, and very successful. And so what's nice about them is that now that we know we've actually got a really bad year, or most likely got a bad year coming ahead, you can actually plant it now and you can have flowering, through to at least through to December.
Beekeeping has been Anton Esterhausen's passion for decades. He'd like to pass the business on to his son, and for him a solution can't come soon enough.
I do think people are already exiting the industry. If you see on social media equipment that's for sale, I think people are exiting the industry, and I think there may be some more.